Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Italian sausage chili. That's right. After tasting this, you won't be asking, where's the beef? You'll be asking, hey, why were we using beef for chili? It's so much better like this. And if you're watching this in real time and you're planning food for your Super Bowl party, what better choice than a Super Bowl of food? And that's exactly what this is. And here's one of the big reasons: Italian sausage. So I'm going to use two kinds. I got some hot Italian and I got some sweet Italian. And step one here, we're going to want to remove the casing, which is very simple. Just take the tip of a knife and slice down lengthwise, and you'll be able to peel that casing right off. And after I do that, I like to break it up a little bit. So I did 3 spicy and 3 mild. That was about 2.5 pounds of sausage total. And then once that's prepped, we can head over to the stove to start browning this. So I'm going to place a pot over medium-high heat with a little bit of olive oil in there. And to that, I'm going to add 1 diced onion. And then we'll go ahead and dump in our recently skinned and crumbled sausage, along with a spoon of salt. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and brown this. But as it comes up to temperature, I want you to take some kind of wooden spoon or spatula and break this up as much as you can. The smaller the pieces, the better. And because we started in a cold pot with all those onions, this meat's going to start cooking very slowly, so it's very easy to crumble at this point. If you let those chunks of meat cook and then you try to break them up, it doesn't work as well. So really get in there and break it up as much as you can until it resembles something that looks like this. And at this point, you probably will notice a good amount of liquid at the bottom. That's perfectly fine, and do not drain it. If you have a chili recipe that calls for draining the meat after you brown it, go ahead and cross that part out. Don't drain your meat. And I will explain why on the blog. Instead, we're just going to keep cooking this, and most of that excess liquid is going to evaporate out and or caramelize onto the meat itself. So that's all we're going to do. We're just going to continue to keep cooking until that meat is browned and most of the liquid has evaporated, which for me was right about here. And at that point, we are ready for our top secret spice blend, which includes chili powder, paprika, chipotle chili powder, some cumin, some freshly ground black pepper, and a little bit of dry oregano. And we'll go ahead and stir that in. And you know this trick. We like to saute our spices if we can in fat before we add the wet ingredients. And in fact, there's an old culinary school saying that I just made up that goes, before you get the wet, be sure to fry the dry. And I know technically we're not frying the spices, but saute didn't rhyme. But anyway, dump in those spices and cook that stirring for about 2 minutes. And then, and only then, will we introduce the wet stuff, which includes some water and some crushed tomato. And you'll notice I'm not using a ton of tomato. I hate when chilies are actually tomato sauces. In fact, I don't even think real chili has tomato in it. But I'll have to check with my friends from Texas on that one. Oh, they'll know. And then I want you to bring this up to a simmer and then adjust your heat to maintain a nice, slow, steady simmer. Should look something like that. And all we're going to do is simmer that for about 45 minutes or until that sausage meat is tender. And by the way, like any stew, soup, or chili, you can always add a little water as you go if it looks like it's getting too thick or dry. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And then one other thing we want to do is make sure we skim any fat that floats to the top off with a ladle, which by the way, I will do most of off camera, since 7 seconds of watching someone skim fat is plenty. But anyway, let it simmer for 45 minutes, stirring occasionally, skimming the fat, and after 45 minutes, it's time to test. So this was me 45 minutes later checking, and as I suspected, after 45 minutes, that sausage meat was tender. And at that point, we're ready to add our beans. And because we're doing an Italian sausage chili, we're going to use an Italian white bean called the cannellini bean. And not only does this large white bean taste great in this, it looks great, especially along with the next ingredient, which is diced red and green bell pepper. So we'll go ahead and stir in the beans and the peppers. And I'm using sweet peppers. You can use spicy, of course. Can't believe you even asked that. And then we're going to go ahead and simmer this for about 30 minutes. But before we do, I'm going to add one more big splash of water. And depending on how yours looks, you may need a little more water, you may need a little less. You have to decide. You are the Uncle Billy of your Italian sausage chili. So take control. And you can see right there, that is the recommended ideal viscosity. And then, like I said, bring this back to a simmer and let it simmer for about 20-30 minutes. And at that point, you should be ready to eat. And you'll know for sure because you're going to taste it for final seasoning. You might need some salt. It's going to depend on how salty the sausage meat was to start with. And by the way, if you're wondering why I didn't put any garlic in here, it's because there was already a ton in the sausage. So that saved me a step. And once we decide it's exactly how we want, we're going to go ahead and grab a ladle. And you can see right there how I like mine. Not too thick, not too thin, just right. And then we go ahead and ladle that up into some hot bowls. And I don't know why I use that bowl. I hate that bowl. But anyway, we're going to ladle that up. I'm going to go ahead and garnish with some sour cream, some diced avocado, a little bit of minced red onion, and then last but not least, and I hope you're sitting down, instead of cilantro, I'm going to do some basil. All right, since we used Italian sausage and cannellini beans, I thought I would continue the theme with a little bit of basil chiffonade, and that was one beautiful looking and tasting bowl of chili. And as I dig in here, what I'm really struck with is that this does taste pretty much exactly like a classic American chili con carne, and yet that pork sausage is a little bit richer than the beef, and also you get that little bit of subtle herb and spice from the sausage, like the garlic and the fennel and the pepper, etc. So just really a beautiful variation on your traditional chili. And of course, as you'll notice here, I like to serve mine with polenta chips. Yep, that's stone ground corn fried into a chip. Really good with this. But don't worry if you can't find polenta chips, just use tortilla chips. They're remarkably similar. But anyway, all in all, just a great bowl of chili. And like I said at the beginning, this would be perfect the next time you're entertaining at a party, Super Bowl or otherwise. So I really do hope you give this a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.